Hola, bon dia, Carl Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal live stream YouTube channel and podcast. How are you today? Look at that question on my screen there. Do you know about entronc? This is the shortened form of entroncamento. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. And I think we've got so much to talk about today, as we usually do. I'm trying to get my head around this challenge of keeping it to 30 minutes, which I fail miserably at, largely because of all of your wonderful comments that distract and delight me. So do please keep those coming in. Your comments are so valuable and fun and entertaining and all sorts. All of life is here. Including this. This is so weird, and this is something to do with entroncamento. It says, "Hey, honey," from myself. That is so spooky, and that is part of this entroncamento vibe that I want to tell you about. I doubt we're going to squeeze it in today. The phenomena, the entroncamento, the hashtag FDE. But I got to tell you about this, and maybe the Indiana Jones thing that's gone on in Sintra as well. But today, carrying on from Ivan Schmada, who was here yesterday from Relish, Portugal, we have a food and drink theme because I thought I was going to squeeze all this in yesterday. But no, we talked with Ivan for 45 minutes about Relish, Portugal, and so many wonderful things here in Portugal, certainly to do with food and wine, and that always kind of merges into the general culture and all that we love about the country. So let's see. I mean, I don't want to give myself too much of a hard time, but and very open to your feedback as well. And it's already coming in. Will says, "How about aim for 45 minutes and work backwards?" Not a bad shout, that, Will. Not a bad shout. So yes, we definitely finish at 45. Yeah, let's have a kind of deadline limit and then work backwards. And hashtag weird from myself, and I promise you I didn't do that. Sorry, I'm watching from your profiles. I'm hoping that is my wife and not some other phenomenon that is more sinister. Please confirm, Mrs. M, if that's you. Quick look at the weather now, and we are looking at Lisbon's weather at 18 degrees and overcast. The rain is on its way. Will, would you mind reminding us what the weather pattern is and what it's likely to what the likely impact will be of this weather system that's coming in? You seem to be quite excited about it in your scientisty kind of way, or should that be scientific? I prefer scientisty because I imagine you being a bit like Magnus Pike, and gesticulating and getting very excited about this. Is it a warm front? Is it a wet front? Is it a soggy bottom? More about soggy bottoms a bit later on. At Lisbon, anyway, 18 degrees and overcast, 26 to look forward to today. Cloudy day. The rain is coming in tomorrow. Porto, 18 degrees and mostly cloudy this morning. 25 to look forward to. Cloudy again in Porto. Rain coming in. And it's looking like a lot of rain. I find that Porto is synonymous with Manchester. Is that a fair comparison? Is Porto the Manchester of Portugal? And I think every immigrant expat will have their own map of this, won't they? They'll compare the cities where they came from. So obviously there's the capital, and then there are the next biggest cities and how they relate to the countries where you've come from. So I see Porto as like Manchester, especially with all this rain that's coming in there. Coimbra will be cloudy today, mostly 17 degrees at the moment, rising to 29. And the rain coming in tomorrow. Forecast for several days of rain, actually. So, Will, what's happening up there in the skies above us? Faro, 19 degrees and mostly cloudy today. 25 to look forward to. A little bit of rain peeking out from behind the clouds in Faro, as you might expect, but rain there too tomorrow and on Friday. And the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, is looking like a nice weekend. The rain should have cleared by then in Faro, but not the case in Coimbra, not the case in Porto. Nice for gardeners and ducks in those parts of the country. I feel we should look at this ongoing fire situation. And what I will do, if you're not aware of this already, this is the way to track the outbreak and progress of fires here in Portugal. Fogos.pt. Let me just refresh that and just give you an idea of how serious this blaze is in Proença Nova in the Castelo Branco district. This fire broke out several days ago. Quite something. Look at this, 895 personnel on the ground there still. 300 vehicles and 2 planes. I think there were 6 or 8 planes in the sky there yesterday. But the good news, it would look like, mercifully, thankfully, we can see now, because it's a blue dot, it is in resolution. And this was the fear people had yesterday, was that it was in resolution at 10 to 6 yesterday evening, and then it broke out again and went into Curza ongoing at around 6 o'clock, but now in resolution, thankfully. Just to give you an idea of where that is in the country, let me zoom out. That is the epicenter of the fire there. This huge blaze that's been going on since the 13th of September. Wow, 3 days blazing there on a similar latitude to Leiria and Castelo Branco. Zoom out even more to give you an idea. Look, pretty much central Portugal, right bang in the middle there. So good news that is now in resolution, and yeah, big respect and admiration and resources above all to those wonderful firefighters. Still 895 of them tackling that now in its resolution phase. God bless you, one and all, who've been working on that for the last 3 days. Yeah, get your hands in your pockets when you see a Bombeiros collection. Amazing people. And a voluntary service there. So yes, onward then. No-knead bread today, and the remarkable family, the Symingtons. I'm going to say Symingtons. It could be Symingtons, and I'm open to being corrected on that. Before I go there, that was a funny sound, wasn't it? I'm not even talking about COVID yet, and I'm coughing. Actually, let me just go back to a few of these comments before I miss them. Yeah, and this is how we get to be 9:45, you see. Bon dia, Carl, another bright start in Manchester. That's good to hear. Steve and Claire and Steve in Manchester there. Good morning to you. And look, these messages are still coming in. It's me, myself, talking to myself on my comment screen. And just by way of furnishing this picture of Entroncamento is the wells of Portugal. So these comparisons are happening now. Yeah, so a little bit. Well, the reason this came about, last night's news hour, I do this every Tuesday, look at some of the Portugal news. And Adam Freeman of the Hungry Couple, who drops in occasionally, was saying he's aware of my slightly sort of out there views on things, and he said, Carl, do something about Area 51. So, you know, I could have done, but I was thinking, well, what's the Area 51? Where do the otherworldly phenomenon take place? Phenomena. That's for you, Gary. Where do they take place in Portugal? Turns out it's Entroncamento, and I mean, not just there. At Alentejo, I think you see extraterrestrial activity in the sky, as you might expect. You know, there are cereal fields there. There's a low population density, and there are lovely, wide, beautiful night skies there. But Entroncamento and Sintra and Serra da Estrela are the places that were identified by the Portuguese people in the room last night. Great to have the company of Anna and Mags, who are furnishing this picture for us. And phenomena and Entroncamento. It's amazing, but I'll tell you a little bit today. Actually, I'll do it now, and then go into it more tomorrow, because this picture is building. We don't want to peak too soon with this, because there may be other information to come, especially that thing in Sintra, which looks like the rural home of Indiana Jones. Quite bizarre, but look in Entroncamento, and this was especially popular, I believe, some maybe a century ago. Examples of the phenomena de Entroncamento are the first case to be reported of a blackbird that was white. Wow. Sometimes they're blue, but this one was white. A crow that spoke as if it were human. A ram with 4 horns instead of 2. A plant that gave tomatoes and potatoes at the same time. Maybe it's a Monsanto research facility as well in Entroncamento, but like the nightshade tree there, giving tomatoes and potatoes at the same time. A tree that had 5 different types of fruit. I'm really thinking genetic modification here. A chicken egg that reached the weight of almost 1 kilo. That's a hell of an omelette, isn't it? A chick with 3 legs. Or a fisherman who drew a partridge out of the water. And you'd expect there to be some Portuguese folk songs about these phenomena, right? And an olive tree from which white olives were born. Oh, hold on, we're not finished there. A man with 3 kidneys, a bullfighter who bit a bull. Isn't that just normal? A bean whose size exceeded 30 centimeters, a bean that exceeded 1 meter in length. These are just some of the phenomena of entroncamento. More about that tomorrow, okay? And if you know anything about that, or have you seen a UFO in Portugal? Any other worldly phenomenon? We'll talk about that tomorrow. But today we've got no-knead bread and the Symington dynasty to share with you, but not until we've had some comments and said hello to a few folks this morning. So, bom dia, Tenya, ótimo dia a todos. So, have a great day. Everybody from Owen, good morning to you, Owen. Hope you're safe and well. No doubt you'll have seen a lot of smoke in the sky in the distance where you are in Villa de Rey. And great to know that it's under control now. We have read that there's a change to the state of alert on mainland Portugal. What does this mean? By the way, it's dry in Manchester for the next 5 days. All right, we've got your weather. Claire and Steve, we have changed into a state of contingency. The crushing news for some is that drinking is no longer allowed on the roads or in petrol stations. It was one of the quirky things that's come about in the state of contingency that kicked in yesterday. You will see from last Friday's live stream the detail, or go to Safe Communities Portugal. There's a link actually. If you go to the blog, my blog, let me just put that on the screen. This isn't just my digital begging bowl. This is actually the blog as well. Maybe that's how I should refer to it. This is my blog, everybody. ko-fi.com/Carl Munson. The links to all the content in each live stream is there. And obviously you can access without buying me a Portuguese coffee, but it's quite a useful resource. So if you've missed anything like this, perhaps Claire and Steve, we linked to on Friday's blog, Safe Communities Portugal. You might be talking about something more recent than that, and I'm not aware of it. I'm really not. I don't know what that might mean. Others might be able to help in the group here, as they often do. If I do find out anything, I'll let you know. I'll be the first to let you know. Muito bom dia. A very good day. How lovely is that? A very good day to us all from Mag Rasmussen. Good morning to you, Mag. Great to have your company last night, as I said, on the news hour. Every Tuesday, Portuguese news, and we tend to drift off piste as we did last night. Not like us at all. It's an anticyclone coming in, says Will. Looks like a hurricane, but it's more cold air hitting, warm air than the other way round. Okay, so cold air from the North Atlantic hitting warm air over Portugal, causing it to drop rain. It's moving our way, so still hopefully just a very healthy downpour starting tomorrow. He's got his fingers crossed for some reason. Is he expecting something worse than that? I guess that makes it a cold front. And actually, with the temperatures the way they've been, I would welcome a cold front right now. Yeah, it's been very humid and warm, and perhaps this weather system will puncture that that sense you get, that overbearing sense of humidity. Owen, seeing less and less of the smoke clouds. Many thanks to all the firefighters. Yeah, we can't say that enough here. Absolutely, echoing that here, Owen. I'm glad to hear you're safe there, mate. Hola, bon dia. Been a few days out. Yes, we've noticed. People were talking about you. Sunny Wolf over there in the UK. Glad to hear the fires are resolving. In awe of the volunteers in the fire service. Yeah, so many of them. Incredible, right? It went into 4 figures at that particular incident. Guten Morgen from a sunny and warm Wiesbaden, Germany. Good morning. Jim quoted you yesterday as it was day of this and day of that. It was International Creme de Menthe Day, as well as International Neonatal Nursing Day. Thank you for that link, which I opened the news hour with last night. Jacqueline, thanks, Jim. And good morning to you. Everyone is fascinated by the supernatural, and we can attract the good, the bad, or the ugly. So true, Jacqueline. Great to talk to you yesterday, and looking forward to working with you. You're absolutely right, of course. And we are. I suppose it's our need to know, isn't it? I think. Forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but once interviewing a storyteller, I said, "What's the enduring fascination of storytelling for human beings?" And he said, Gary Cordingley, really nice guy, great storyteller. He said, humans need to know what's going to happen next, and that's why we love stories. We get engaged, don't we? And we want to know what's going to happen next. What's going to happen next? No more than at the moment, right? In these incredible times for humanity. What's that word? Unprecedented. Yeah, and we want to know what's going to happen next now, don't we? And this goes hand in hand, of course, with our conversation that we were having yesterday, Jacqueline, with other aspects of humanity like faith and trust. as well. So yeah, those things going hand in hand, the unknown and having faith. Anna, you're here again. I'm so glad. And look, yes, I couldn't not mention the X-Files at Entron Convento. I told you they have strange things. You're absolutely right. Thank you so much for your help last night with that, Anna, and your continuing help here on the live streams. So good morning to you, bon dia to you, Anna. Great, it helps my ball stop on the green. Rain is good. A bowler, I am guessing, from that comment. Good morning to you, Terry. Seen you once or twice here. Welcome back. What is that Crown Green you're playing there? Oh, no, it's golf. Of course, it's golf. What am I talking about? Could be bowling. But yeah, it might be nice to have a bit of rain on the golf course from time to time, and helping your game there by the sound of it. In the Algarve, I'm wondering. Thanks. We must have missed the show, but we're still looking at your site now. Yes, Friday, click into Safe Communities Portugal. One of their most recent postings there is about the measures that have come in as the state of contingency began yesterday. And just finally for the comments for now, actually not finally, a couple more. Bon dia, yesterday also a fire near the house of a friend in Aldea Santa Margarita. Yeah, it's this, sadly it is part of life in some ways in Portugal. I mean, of course you can add to that global warming, climate change, forest mismanagement, selection of the wrong kind of forest and stuff. But yes, forest fires, of course, are in part, perhaps only a small part of this picture, a natural phenomenon. But it is always very sad to see this, especially when it gets to the scale it got to yesterday. Bon dia from sunny Tamworth in the UK from Wayne. Golf. I think Terry's a bit upset that I might have mistaken him for a bowler. Do accept my humblest of apologies, and misplaced you as well with Cascais, not Algarve, Cascais. I think that's probably subject to a few paranormal happenings as well. Often goes hand in hand, doesn't it, with a big military base as you have in Cascais there. The firefighters are amazing, says Jacqueline. Thank you so much to them. They are a gold gift, a gold gift. Yes, Jacqueline, thank you very much for that. So we're going to have a look. Before we go to the Symingtons, the Symingtons, the wine producers in the Douro, 5 generations of them. You think you got it tough as a migrant, as an expat, as an immigrant coming into Portugal in the 21st century? Consider what it might have been like 5 generations ago as we talk about the Symingtons. I'm going to go with that. I'm just going to keep saying Symington unless I'm corrected otherwise. And we'll look at that after we've had a look at Nanny D's no-knead bread recipe, which often turns into a nice play on words. For gluten-free people, it's definitely no-knead. But for people who want to make bread in an easy way, it is no-knead, K-N-E-A-D, the kneading of the bread. And the word of the day to suit is receita, recipe. Okay, our word of the day, palavra do dia, scrolling across your screen now if you're watching live, receita. Okay, and we go to this lovely site which details the discovery by Paul Hollywood, he of the British Bake Off, right, and several other spin-offs, I suspect. He's had a great career, isn't he, from the British Bake Off, and talk of soggy bottoms and so on. My screen capture is not playing well with me. Hold on a minute. There we go. This should work this second time. And I'm just going to have a little sip of water while you admire this beautiful loaf on the screen for just one moment. And there's Nanny D in the background, actually. You can just see her. And the loaf of bread that she created, which I think it looks even more beautiful than the one featured in the recipe here. But hold on, just going to have a sip of water. I have to say, I hadn't appreciated water in my life as much as I have in the heat some days here. It is just like, well, nectar of the gods, isn't it? Adam's ale, water sometimes. A new appreciation for me. The agua here in Portugal when it's been really hot. And just now, fantastic. From the ground outside here, we do filter it as a precaution, but yeah, tastes good to me. Right, this recipe, no-knead bread, thank you to The Quirk and the Cool. And that's a blog and website after our own heart, isn't it? Thoughts and conversation about food and other interests being shared from Sydney, Australia. I can't quite read that from the graphics here, but this is a truly international affair. So we're talking about a recipe that our wonderful friend and family. She's family. Dee in Aveiro shared with us on Sunday. It was like the traditional popping round to the Grampies on Sunday afternoon, and Dee treated us to this wonderful loaf, and this is the recipe. And this time, I mean, this is all over the internet if you search for no-knead bread, but it's detailed wonderfully here with some nice pictures on the quirkandthecool.com. You see that? That's a good looking loaf. And I said to Dee, when she cut through into, the outside would look beautiful. She'd cut the loaf and it had split in the oven. The crust and the crumb were delightful, and the taste and the texture were fantastic. So we'll be baking this bread. I won't be giving up on buying bread in Portugal, because obviously that is a really important part of the culture, as we discovered last week in our Portugal week. Portugal. See what I did there? But look, just want to tell you more about this recipe, and we will be trying it here. And I do suggest, do try this at home. I am sure many of you will be familiar with no-knead bread, the technique developed by Jim Leahy, owner of the Sullivan Street Bakery in New York City. That sounds like a great place to go to, right? The technique has been used by many bakers to produce virtually effortless bread. And this is the problem people have, and this is why people have bread machines, isn't it? It's to do all that hard work. I discovered no-knead bread only recently, continues the Quirk and the Cool, via the TV program Paul Hollywood City Bakes. You see, there's one of the spin-offs from the British Bake Off, City Bakes New York, when he visited the New York bakery and Jim Leahy showed him the magic technique. This is great, isn't it? A magic technique to do with bread. I mean, it is magic, isn't it? It is magic that it rises, and that, once, this is alchemy, putting these elements, these God-given elements, nature-given elements together, and turning them into wholesome food. The most ancient of wholesome and comforting foods, bread. And yes, it's easy. And yes, it works. You only need to invest time. And you expats, you've got time, right? Up to 24 hours. But the result, I hope I haven't offended anybody there, but the result is beautifully baked bread. Now, the good news is you don't have to be actually working this bread for 24 hours, because then it wouldn't be a good idea. It wouldn't be a great recipe, would it? If you actually had to spend 24 whole hours making a loaf of bread that you could devour in about 10 minutes, that's not a good recipe. I think this will be clarified. Overall, you need 24 hours. And there it is. Some of us aging expats recognize, don't we, the value and beauty of being patient. And this is one of those moments. Here is the recipe technique based on that of Mark Bittman, another name here, who first shared the recipe in the New York Times in 2006. It's a stuff of legend, this. As Mark says, a wet dough and a slow fermentation are the keys to success. Isn't that true in life, just generally? Slow fermentation. I don't know, but I'm not sure about the metaphor of wet dough, as well as the unique baking method, a heated covered pot, which creates essentially an oven within an oven to trap steam as the bread bakes. My mouth is watering for some reason already. So the ingredients you'll need for this: 430 grams of strong flour, força, Portugal, plus extra as needed. 345 grams of water, 1 gram of yeast, often known as baker's yeast, which just conjures up in my mind a very weird situation of going into a bakery and asking the baker, can I have some of your yeast, please, baker? 8 grams of salt, cornmeal, semolina, or wheat bran for dusting. So the dusting flour of your choice there. And obviously, when you get good at this, you can experiment with different types of dusting. Method: combine the flour, yeast, and salt in a large bowl. Add the water and stir until blended. The dough should be shaggy and sticky. Excellent description of dough. Add a little more water if it seems dry. Do not knead. Cover the bowl with a tea towel or plastic wrap, or my favorite, a plastic shower cap. Where's my shower cap? I'm just making some bread. Let the dough rest for a minimum of 12 hours or up to 18 hours at room temperature. The dough is ready when its surface is dotted with bubbles. I've just had a terrible thought. Don't borrow someone else's shower cap from the household, right? That is a surefire way of getting hair in the bread. And nobody, as they say, has got time for that. Lightly flour a work surface and turn the dough onto the surface. Carefully and quickly lift the edges of the dough in toward the center, folding the dough over onto itself. Tuck in the edges of the dough to make it round. Don't knead is, again, the warning here. Generously. And for you experienced bread makers, it will be a bit of a trial, not letting your fingers and knuckles go into the bread, of course. Generously coat a cotton tea towel with cornmeal, semolina, or wheat bran, and put the dough seam side down on the towel and dust with more flour or cornmeal. It's getting complicated. This is a moment in recipes where I don't understand what's going on and I think this is too complicated. But hold on, let's bear with it. Cover with another tea towel or plastic wrap and let rise for about 2 hours. When ready, the dough will be more than doubled in size and won't spring back readily when poked with your finger. Poke it with your finger, see what happens. At least half an hour before the dough is ready, adjust an oven rack to the lower third of the oven and preheat the oven to 230 degrees. A hot oven for this, centigrade that is, folks, obviously. Place a medium-sized cast iron enamel Pyrex or ceramic casserole pot lid on into the oven to heat up. I use a Le Creuset casserole. We've got just the thing here. You have to be an Olympic weightlifter to get that in and out of the oven, but it could be a two-person job, I guess. When the dough is ready, carefully remove the pot from the oven and take off the lid. Turn the dough over into the pot, seam side up by sliding your hand under the tea towel and quickly turning the dough over into the pot. It can look a bit untidy, but the dough seems to settle in an acceptable shape in the oven. And look at that picture. Cover with the lid and bake for 30 minutes and remove the lid and bake for another 20 to 30 until the loaf is quite brown. The bread should look really brown. I am tempted sometimes, this person says, to take out the bread 10 minutes too early. Ooh, rascal. Brown to dark brown is good. I think this is one of those recipes where you might need the comfort of a YouTube visual as well. And it says here, once the bread is done, lift the bread from the pot onto a wire rack with pot holders or tongs. Pot holders, what are they? Let the bread cool for at least 30 minutes before cutting the loaf. And that will be the problem. Who, after doing all of that, can wait another 30 minutes before enjoying it, as it says here, with lashings of butter? Seriously, my mouth is watering now. Portuguese olive oil would be another alternative, or a great dip. And doesn't that look beautiful on this? So there you go. No-knead bread. That they're courtesy of the Quirk and the Cool. Got to be worth trying at home, right? And you could be sparking up your wood-fired oven that many of you folks have in the quintas that you've bought. I mean, wouldn't you feel proud of yourself if you sparked up your forno or your bread oven, your barbecue oven, or whatever? Apparently, you can do this on a barbecue with a lid as well. Ivan was telling me after we were off air yesterday. So all sorts of Portuguese twists possible with this, and yeah, that with a load of Portuguese olive oil on it and a homemade hummus or whatever, that's got to be good, isn't it? Or a bifana in there from your Barbie. Tremendous. Love that recipe. Love the idea. And just very quickly, one more time, Dee's picture. The baker herself, who treated us to this for the first time. Let me just take myself off the screen and you'll see her here. If I put her back on the screen, actually, that was going to be a blank screen if I hadn't noticed that. So and that was Dee in Aveiro with her no-knead bread. Switching us on to that recipe there. Receita is the word of the day, obviously, which means recipe. So Anna tells us she's in Cascais too. People making friends in the comments. Every sentence with Portugal in it should have patience in it too. Yes. That's true. I see what you're getting at there, Wayne, and it is a double-edged sword or a two-sided coin. I think what you're getting at there, but this is what I say, to people who struggle with with not getting their needs met as fast as they would like. That's what you came here for, isn't it? Let me remind you, you came here to chill the hell out and take it easy. You wanted a better quality of life. Part of that is taking it easy, slowing down, calma, tranquilo, as I've been told on a number of occasions, mainly by taxi drivers. I imagine taxi drivers to be really impatient people. So I'm always apologizing when my 3 children are taking 2 days to get into a car, their car, and the taxi driver's here, calma, tranquilo, no faz mal, doesn't matter, take it easy. Healthy people need lots of water. So in a way, we are wet dough. Is that what you're saying here? We are a wet dough drink. I am so hungry. Now I have to go to make bread. Pot holders or oven gloves. Okay, so pot holder is American for oven gloves. Thanks for pointing that out, Jackie. Appreciate it. So you made you hungry for bread. And yes, the metaphor there is that humans are wet dough. I think. No, I'm dying of starvation now. Sorry, Jacqueline. That was not my intention this morning. We're going to move. It's so biblical. We're going to move from bread to wine next. So, your recommendation to me is that there is an uncanny reference to that now as we move from bread to wine, and the ultimate recipe, you might say, yeah, the good Lord's treatment of bread and wine, of turning water into wine, of course, the ultimate recipe, you might say. Bon dia from Rita Adonis. Good morning to you, Rita. Lovely to have you here. I hope you enjoyed that recipe, and hope now you will enjoy the story of the Symingtons. Broken the 30-minute deadline. Let's see if we can bring it in under 45 minutes this morning. The Symington family estates. This is what I'm sharing with you here. The story of the Symington family. And as I said before, if you think you've got it tough now with all this, I think Wayne's referring to the bureaucracy, is he not? And how you have to be patient. Quite right too. Can you imagine what it would have been like in 1882 when Andrew James Symington, also known as AJ, arrived in Portugal, just 19 years of age? And this is a family who set up in the Douro region. I'm going to tell you more about it now, and I should have brought it to the table, but our wine club selection number 12. It's our 12th wine that we're tasting. Gary's taking care of business tomorrow night at 9:00, and it is an Altano organic red. I'm really looking forward to this one. I want it to be good. I always want to have an organic wine. I want it to be good, because I think ultimately, shouldn't all wine eventually be organic? We stop poison. I mean, notwithstanding the obvious poisoning with the toxicity of alcohol, do we need to add other things to it? Organic wine got to be the way forward, right? And I always want them to be good when I taste them. And tomorrow night we'll do that, and we'll find out. But anyway, AJ Symington, who arrived in Portugal in 1882, what must it have been like there? I picture him like the man from Del Monte in a white linen suit, perhaps. Was that the vogue, the fashion in 1882? A colonial look, anyway. His father was a Glasgow merchant, and his mother hailed from Unst in the Shetland Islands, which I think Will Thompson may know. After a short stint at Graham's Port, AJ set up a small port shipping operation under his own name, AJ's Port Shipping Company. It evokes for me, what must Portugal, the Douro, have been like in 1882? Wonderful, I suspect. In 1891, he married fell in love here, Beatriz Leitão de Carvalhosa Atkinson. Wow, it's an interesting collection of names. And it must have been amusing for him in some way when he asked Beatrice, "What does Leitão mean? What does your name mean, darling?" And she said, "Suckling pig." Her grandfather had been a pork producer and shipper since 1814, and her Portuguese mother was descended from the pioneering pork merchants of the 17th century. Today's fifth generation of Symingtons working in the pork trade can trace their lineage back through 14 generations to 1652 via their great-great-grandmother to the earliest days of port's long history. And my mouth is watering again, talking about port. The beginnings of a legacy. In 1905, AJ became a partner in Wars Port, the first and oldest British port company established in Portugal. And therein lies a tale, right? Can you imagine that? The early pioneers of the British port, what would it be? Relationship with Portugal. Curiously, and it's a long one, isn't it? I mean, this is all part of, the great relationship between the British and the Portuguese, of course. Curiously, at this time, the War family were the principal owners of Dow's Port and had no remaining interest in the company that bore their name. In 1912, Dow's senior partner, George A. War, decided to return to England and invited AJ to manage the Douro vineyards of the Dow. So this is his first big break, presumably, and he managed its lodges and stocks in Gaia. Its lodges, where they stored the port, or where their staff stayed? I don't know. In the same year, a share swap took place whereby AJ took a stake in Dow's and George War once again took shares in War and Co. The successful partnership between the Symingtons as port producers in the Douro and Gaia and the Wars looking after the sales in London lasted for half a century until 1961, when the Symingtons became the sole owners of both Dow's and Wars. Now, even 1961, the trade sailing those routes from Porto into down the Thames. I don't know which way they'd have done it, but just even 1961 seemed glamorous to me, and the British Portuguese port trade. What a wonderful history! Every opportunity, AJ, Beatrice, and their three sons, Morris and the twins John and Ronald, would leave their house in Porto and travel to the Daus Quintas in the Douro, Quinta de Bonfim, Quinta da Senhora da Ribeira, and Quinta do Zimbro. The children grew to love the wild, untamed and remote mountain country. What a vision! In due course, the three sons joined their father in helping run the Douro properties, tending the vines and overseeing the winemaking. They grew up with it. The visitor books register their frequent visits and bring to life the work they undertook over several decades as they paved the way for the next generations. Some of the vines planted by them during the 1920s and 30s survive to this day. The love of the Douro region and the Portuguese countryside has deepened with every passing Symington generation. And of course, we should mention, I think, the unsung heroes, because it does romanticize it slightly, that all that had needed to happen was this family visiting the vines every now and then, and port was made. This relies on the efforts of hundreds of people, Portuguese people, right? Country folk in the Douro who are doing the back-breaking work of picking and tending to the grapes. So here we go, plot twist. And, this, I was saying earlier on, wasn't I? What is it about stories? People want to know what happens next. I hope you want to know what happens next here, because I'm going to tell you now. And I need a sound effect of thunder and lightning weathering the storm. Andrew and Beatrice's grandsons, Michael, Ian, and James, joined the family firm during one of the most challenging periods facing port. This is post-Portgate, the post-World War II era. They were later joined by Peter and Amias. The war had put a halt to most exports of port, and during the 1950s, many of the long-established port families sold their firms and left Portugal. Ooh, tragic. But you would think, that would be an important part of army requisitioning or the Navy, especially like port, right? So you'd have thought that would have continued as required provisioning for the military. Anyway, however, the Symingtons never lost faith in an eventual recovery. Even though the hard times obliged the third generation to sell two of their treasured vineyards. Wow. The Quinta de Zimbro and Quinta de Senhora da Ribeira. In an extraordinary turn of events, the fourth generation were able to repurchase the Quinta de Senhora da Ribeira in 1998, 45 years later. How lovely. So on to expansion and growth. And I'm taking this from the Symington.com website, because they are an extraordinary family dynasty, a Douro dynasty, and they are the producers of the wine we're tasting tomorrow night. The Symingtons' faith in port and commitment to the Douro throughout these lean times began to pay off when Europe entered a period of prosperity during the early 1960s. So boom time. Yes, of course, it would make sense, wouldn't it? When importing and exporting really took a turn for the better. The declaration of the outstanding 1963 vintage, a 20th century classic, heralded a period of sustained growth and success for the family firm. There's, this is nature-given bounty here, and a vintage in 1963. In 1970, the Symington family bought the widely respected W&J Graham & Co. when it was put up for sale. The third generation was instrumental in turning around not just the prospect of their own family business, but contributed with others to the revival of the port trade as a whole, and helped lay the foundations for its growth in markets around the world from the 1970s. And up to where we are now, Portugal's port, along with so many wonderful exports and treasures, national natural treasures here in Portugal, and notably port. So there you go. I'm not going to go into the whole story there. You can do that for yourself at Symington.com. But yes, to everyone's delight, the first young members of the sixth generation are already on the scene, enjoying the joys of childhood spent between Porto and the Douro hills and vineyards. How lovely is that? Have you been to the Douro yet? Have you flown the Douro vineyards in a helicopter? That was a suggestion. Eloise and Paolo, when we were out on that tasting evening, and we did have some fine vintage port, suggested the best way to see the Douro is by helicopter. And what a wonderful thing that would be to do. Have you done that? Let me know. So we will finish by 45. Excellent. But not until we have gone into a few of your comments here. Rita says Uber people are a lot nicer. You can't say that around here, Rita. We are still. I get how that works in the big cities, right? But the taxi drivers I've met here, they are so much part of the traditional community in the smaller towns. Forgive me. I imagine you're a Portuguese person, but I'm talking from my personal experience here. That in the small towns, knowing a taxi driver and a hairdresser are all you need to connect with the local community. And I've met some very rude taxi drivers in cities all over the world, in the big towns, big cities. But out here and where else I've been in Portugal, the taxi driver is such a crucial part of getting to know a place, and a really important number to have in your phone. And we don't have Uber here. I think it's only in Lisbon and Porto, isn't it? I don't even think it's up the road in Aveiro, possibly in Coimbra. But yeah, I get you, Rita. And a great place to live. I did the East Coast in '95. Where are we talking about there? Is that are we back to the Shetlands or the Douro? But it wouldn't be an East Coast. So no, there's no East Coast in Portugal, is there? Off topic, but the weather is cooling. We can tell by the locals already having their log burners going. The sweet aroma of burning wood fills the air. I love the smell. It sums up rural Portugal for me and reminds me of when we drove up through Portugal to sign for the house on a cool November evening. No problem with being off topic like that. What a beautiful memory. And one of those reasons, we have that thing here, don't we, on Good Morning Portugal? It's like, that's what I came here for. That's an evocative moment. And that is obviously one. I'm sure you're not alone with that, Ty. Thank you for sharing that. Will, Unst, the northernmost habited island in Shetland. You pronounce the U as in unstable. So Unst. Thank you for that. Learn something every day. Every day is a school day here on the Good Morning Portugal live stream. It's a great part of the world here. There is no doubt, Tim, says Tracy. Good morning to you, Tracy. And they'll have body warmers on soon. Love that smell too. Who doesn't love the smell of a Portuguese person in a body warmer? Although I think Tim might be referring to wood smoke. Yes, indeed. The Whitsunday Islands, one of my highlights. Oh, so yeah, the east coast of Portugal, fantastic. Nice time of year here too. And listening to Carl, Portugal and the Whitsundays seem to be experiencing the same type of weather. I know I'm going to enjoy Portugal, says Tracy. I think you are too, Tracy. Good morning, Carl. Yes, Tracy, it's a special place. And Tim Mount is... I don't know. No, I'm confused whether it was the east coast of Australia. But anyway, Tim, I think you live in Portugal, don't you now? This is what I've established from before. But thank you so much for your comments and recollections. We're a bit partial to that. The beauty of the world and traveling here, as so many of us are expats, as it's a sort of confluence point, isn't it, for expat travelers who have decided to settle finally in a great country that they've discovered on their travels, namely Portugal. So no pressure on this wine then. Sorry, Gary, have I raised the bar and the stakes a little bit there? Yes. You are no pressure. You are just simply talking about the products of now 6 generations of Symingtons production in the Douro. Nothing to worry about, mate. Nothing, and you'll feel fine after the first few. Isn't that what we find? The wine tasting, although can be a little nervy at the beginning, for some reason tends to become a very relaxed affair a few minutes in. Funny that. Gary, you're going to be fine. I'm really looking forward to it, mate. 9 o'clock tomorrow, the Good Morning Portugal Wine Club will be in effect, as youngsters say. I've missed the show the past few days. Could not get on to Facebook here at work. That's brilliant. The fact that you could get onto Facebook at work at all is a wonderful thing, Jim, and we appreciate your company. So I'm going to call it a day there. True to my word, just before 9:45. Join us tonight for Hola Americas, the North American, South American, transatlantic show that we do for anyone thinking about coming to Portugal from the other side of the Atlantic. Take care. Have a great day. And Gary, finally, yes, he wants it to be a winner. I'm looking across my office now at the Altano. Tasty looking bottle. Tasteful. And let's hope it's a tasty wine. Thanks so much, everyone, for your wonderful comments and contributions. We'll see you tonight, maybe, for All Our Americas. And if not, in the morning, when we will talk about the phenomena do entroncamento.